No one is more Big Five than Fran Dunphy. Now coaching at his alma mater, LaSalle. An old school guy who's coming to grips with new school concepts like name, image, likeness, and the transfer portal.
You know, there's free agency, there's no salary cap, and there's not a lot of governance to let us know what is right, what's wrong. And the reality is, if you said to me, where is it headed? I don't know.
Know and learn more about Fran Dunphy, including his views on his hometown team, the 76ers. Next on Fresh 24. Fran Dunphy, a Delco guy all the way, born in Drexel Hill, Malvern Prep. As a senior, you averaged nearly 19 a game at LaSalle. Of course, we'll talk about that. You're now the head coach there. You coached at Penn. You coached at Temple. You have a master's degree from Villanova. Is there a St. Joe's connection? We will ask. You don't have to answer that right now. You have a doctorate in counseling and student development. You're married. You have a son, JP. You got 3 grandchildren. Fran Dunphy, welcome to Fresh 24.
Well, good to be with you, Marc. Yeah, I actually was born in Southwest Philly, and then we moved to Drexel Hill to be a Delco person. And then I do not have a doctorate. I have the coursework finished for my doctorate, but never wrote the dissertation, which speaks to my lack of minutia and understanding, and that I just couldn't get that done. That's not my game. But I had that thought of when I was stopped, if I stopped coaching, I would get the dissertation done and get it finished. And then I didn't stop coaching. LaSalle came to me and I said, yes, I will do it. And but I'm sure there will be a day and maybe I will finish this. And if I do, I will hopefully get back on Fresh 24 and say, hey, that accusation you made that I have my doctorate is now true, but we'll see. It'll be a tough task.
Well, speaking of getting back into coaching, at 65, I covered the Sixers for 40 years. I decided I had enough. At 74, you had a 3-year hiatus before you decided to get back in with your alma mater, LaSalle. Were you officially retired at the time, or were you waiting to perhaps coach again?
No, I was not. I didn't have any thoughts. And then, you know, obviously this is my alma mater, so I listened. They asked if I would do it, and I said, okay. I had a long discussion with my wife and family, and said yes. It's been great. I love LaSalle. I love what it did for me. Gave me an opportunity as a student athlete, and then as a coach, as an assistant coach in 1979 with Lefty Irvin. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful what the Christian Brothers gave to me. They took good care of me. I always say that when you go to LaSalle, the Christian Brothers put their arms around you and keep you safe for a couple of years. And this is how we're going to roll. And they were great to me. So I'm grateful for my time there.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your days as a player. We're going to talk about name, image, and likeness and what it's done to the college game. We'll talk about the portal as well. We'll talk about the NBA and the 76ers. But first, a little bit about you. And I say a little bit because I know that you don't really relish talking about yourself. But as you say, you were born in Southwest Philly. You were raised in Drexel Hill. You played ball at Malvern Prep. Can you even remember the first time you picked up a basketball?
Yeah, I can, to be honest with you. Around the time we lived in Southwest Philly, we had a little row house, and my uncle Tony, my mom's brother, put up a basket and a backboard on the railing of the porch that we lived in. And, I'm out there banging up jumpers all day long. I don't know where I got the basketball. I'm sure my mom or dad figured out how to get a basketball in my hands. And then a couple of days later, the city came by and said, listen, you can't have that basket hanging on the railing. So they had to take it down. And but I was devastated because in those days, you were on the street, you were playing a little bit of touch football on the street, and then you had wall ball and step ball and wire ball and any other ball you could find. But that's all you did. And then when we did make a move, this was interesting too, that we made a move to Drexel Hill, and I asked my dad to bring me back into the city, and my grandmother moved into our house in Philly, 1218 South Ruby Street. So I would stay there with her for the weekends, and then I come back out and go to school and do whatever I did at St. Dorothy's in Drexel Hill. And but that was the start of me playing ball, and I loved it. But I loved football and loved baseball too, and I would have loved lacrosse if it was a sport back in those days. I loved crashing into people and doing anything with a ball. But so that was my first days were probably when I'm 6 or 7 years old, and just banging up jump shots on the street.
3 years as a college player at LaSalle. Why the Explorers?
They were one of the few that gave me any attention. So that was really, in all honesty, I got that opportunity because of my high school coach, Dan Doherty, and the coach at LaSalle at the time was Joe Heyer. So they gave me the chance, Joe Heyer and Dan Doherty. So I owe so much to those two guys, and they gave me an opportunity. To be honest with you, I was a Big Five fan, and if anybody in the Big Five had said we'd want you, then I would have gone, and LaSalle said it, and I was grateful.
I'm going to ask you about the Big Five because for a lot of young people, it's just like this term they hear in the background, but many really don't know what it is. But I'm going to take you back in the day because I think this is really important. 1968, 69, I think you know where I'm going with this. You played with a couple of all-timers at LaSalle, Kenny Durrett, Larry Cannon. Both of these guys were first-round picks in the NBA. This was a LaSalle team that went 23-1. They were coached by the Hall of Famer Tom Gola. The one game you lost, South Carolina at the Spectrum, I think it was Quaker City Tournament, if I believe. You were the number 2 team in the country. All this, but no NCAA tournament. Why? Well, as you well know, the team was playing that year under probation because of infractions committed by a previous coach. What was it like playing on such a great team, knowing that there was going to be no postseason for you?
Well, during the season was our postseason, so every statement that we were trying to make was important for us each and every game that we played. So we did have just a fabulous group of guys who were awesome teammates. In addition to being great players, they were awesome teammates, and it just worked. I think Tom Gola's approach was exactly what we needed. He allowed us to play, whereas the previous coach, Jim Harding, who was an unbelievable coach, he taught us fundamentals like you couldn't believe. And I think that was a perfect combination of Jim teaching the fundamentals and Tom allowing us to play. And so it couldn't have happened if the situation was reversed. If Gola was our coach in 67, 68, and Harding our coach in 68, 69, it wouldn't have happened like that. The chemistry wasn't that way. But everybody was comfortable and loved what Gola threw out there, and he was just fair and honest and gave you freedom, and that's all that those guys needed. Kenny Durrett was a ridiculous superstar, and it was just such a shame that he blew out his knee late his senior year, the following year, 70, 71, and the technology of repairing ACLs in those days wasn't there, and so his career was essentially finished by that time. And but Larry Cannon and Bernie Williams and Fatty Taylor and Stan Ladarchik and a guy named Ed Chesney. And Ladarchik was one, in my mind, I always say to people that he was Bobby Jones before there was Bobby Jones. He could defend, and he could make shots when he needed to, just like Bobby Jones, who I thought was just a fabulous player for the Philadelphia 76ers in the day. And that's what Stanley was.
Hey, it's Marc Zumoff. Join me and Philly sports favorites Seth Joyner, Mike Quick, MMA champ Eddie Alvarez, Joe Conklin, Dee Lynam, Matt Cord, Ricky Bowe, and the Cuz, Anthony Gargano. What a lineup. We want you to join us on the Bet Parks team. Bet Parks is the official winning partner of the Philadelphia 76ers and the only casino and sports book that yours truly, Marc Zumoff, recommends and uses. Whether your team scores or not, there's always another way to win on the Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook app. BetParks has your seat with a live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games. Right on your phone and wherever you are, the tailgate, the stadium, on your couch. Double down on fourth down. Make downtime fun time. Play live dealer blackjack, craps, roulette, and more while watching the game. Bet on all your favorite sports. Bet the Birds, pro football, and college football. Download the BetParks app right now and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. Play hundreds of exciting online slots. New users download the BetParks online casino app and sportsbook and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for details. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. BetParks. All right, Coach. So for the 20, 30, or even the 40-somethings out there, they probably hear it somewhere in the background, the noise of the day. The Big Five, which, of course, is Temple, Villanova, St. Joe's, LaSalle, and Penn. The importance of the Big Five, what was it when you played in the late 60s? What did it mean?
Well, as you can imagine, without any ESPN, your whole world was Delaware Valley. You really wasn't a whole lot after that. And let me just add, the Big Five today is now Drexel as well. And it would have been that, I think it would have been the Big Six had Drexel been a Division I program back in 1955 when the Big Five got started. So, but your whole world was local Philadelphia basketball. And then the games got on TV, and I can't remember if it was 17 or 48 or whatever.
Channel 17 is what I remember.
Yeah, and so Charlie Swift and Al Meltzer and it was Matt Gukas Sr. As I recall, there was just an amazing array of games that if you didn't go to the Palestra, you could watch a lot of them on TV. So that was our world. We didn't know much outside of Philadelphia, and so it was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And to be honest with you, Mark, I was at a function that honored Wally Jones the other night, and Phil Martelli, and so I just went for the opening ceremonies of it, and but Wally Jones was my hero, and amazing guy. And then I actually got a chance to try out for the Philadelphia 76ers in 1970. I went to training camp with them in 70, and Wally was, there for the 5 or 6 days that I made it through training camp, and or till they said I was no longer part of the group. But just Wally Jones, I mean, he looked great the other night. He's such a tremendous character, and he's what I remember. Jimmy Lynam and UB White and all these guys that were just so terrific basketball players. A guy named Frank Corus, who I followed in high school because he went to Monsignor Bonner, and so just amazing stuff. And I was so grateful just to be asked to be on a team.
Back to Wally Jones for a second. I remember, and I'm sure you do, the 76ers unseating the Celtics after their 8 straight NBA titles. This is at Convention Hall, and I remember listening to the game on the radio. I don't know if you were there or not. And Wally Jones goes off in the fourth quarter to put the Celtics away. How much of that do you remember?
I don't remember a whole. I remember obviously 1967, so it was just great stuff. But and then Wilton and it's just Billy Cunningham and just awesome stuff. I remember that. And I don't remember that specific game that you're talking about that Wally went off, but he was just so much fun to watch, and the way he treated people was what I remember most. Obviously he was a great player, but the way he treated people. And then I'm with him the other night, and he's telling me about his 3 sisters who all were school teachers, and his dad lived to 107.
Wow. Wow.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
All right, so I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. After nearly a decade as an assistant, and you became an assistant, I guess there was like a 1-year hiatus after you were a player at LaSalle. You had a great run at Penn. You had a slew of Ivy titles as the head coach. And in 2006, you take over at my alma mater, Temple. You take the baton from the late, great Hall of Famer John Chaney. What was that like?
Yeah, it was scary, to be honest with you. I was really apprehensive about doing it. And And I think I've probably told you this story before, but when Temple asked me to be interested, I said, "All right, give me a day, and I'll get back to you." And then my first phone call, of course, was to John Chaney, and I said, "Can we talk?" And of course, he said, "Yeah, we're going to meet at this restaurant." And we talked for 2 hours, and of course, I talked for 2 minutes, but I listened. I said, "Listen, I'm interested in this, but I'm not interested unless you're going to give me the okay here. If it's not okay with you, I'm fine. I got a great job, and I love Penn, and I'm grateful for what they gave me. But I'm interested in talking about it. But I need your blessing." And he said, "You got it." He said, "There's only a couple of people I would like to see succeed me, and you're one of them." I said, "Well, that means a lot to me." And so I took the job, but it was a scary proposition. This guy and I, I coached against him for 17 years, most of those on the losing side. But I learned so much from him, and I was so grateful for the friendship that I had with him. And but it was a scary proposition, and we didn't do all that well the first year. But then we were lucky enough to get a guy like LeBoy Allen, and he dragged us to a number of NCAA tournaments after that. So, but and I think it speaks to what you need when you are a coach. You need really good players and really good guys, and I got those. That was really a great opportunity for me, and Temple was a great place for me too. And I'm so grateful again to Penn and to Temple for what they gave me as an opportunity to coach. And now, of course, you know of my affinity toward LaSalle and what it's done for me as well. So I sit back often and just say, I can't believe the opportunities I've had. Nobody should be this fortunate.
Back to Coach Chaney for a second. What was his greatest asset, do you think?
Uh, yeah, just his authenticity. He was just one of a kind, and you were not. There was going to be no BS involved. This was going to be how the world according to Coach Chaney, and if you liked it, you were going to be successful. If you didn't, then it's okay. You can go somewhere else. But if you're here, this is how we're going to do things. And it was just really a bright man, and I love to listen to him speak, pontificate, whatever the word is that he was all about. I mean, when he would speak, he had this. I think in speaking, the pauses are as important as the words that you deliver, and he was the best pauser I've ever seen when it comes to making his point, and it just brought you into his world. And so I think again, he really knew the game well. And we talk about this all the time when he was coaching, and they would throw that zone at you, and of course he's got like Aaron McKee on one wing and maybe Marc Macon on another. Obviously, they didn't play all that much together, but if they did it all, as I recall, I think they did.
Eddie Jones too is a part of all that.
I mean, so like you're trying to attack the wing. Well, you got no shot. These guys are so long and so quick and so smart and so tough. It was sort of ridiculous. So we were unsuccessful in a number of times trying to beat them. But John was just an amazing coach and a more amazing man. His humanity was terrific.
Coach, we have a lot more to talk about. We mentioned the name, image, likeness thing, the portal, the NBA, the 76ers. We'll get to those items in a second. But first, it is now halftime. And the first part of our halftime is the Garage Beer 6-pack of questions. It's brought to you by Garage Beer, beer-flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. Now, I'm going to give you a choice between two things, and you just blurt out the answer. Don't think about it. Just blurt it out. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Cheesesteak or soft pretzel?
I guess cheesesteak because there's
You're not blurting, Coach. You must blurt. Cheesesteak or soft pretzel? You say cheesesteak. Okay. Center City or South Jersey?
Center City.
Gritty or Philly Fanatic?
Fanatic.
Meek Mill or Hall & Oates?
Hall & Oates.
Dr. J or Allen Iverson throwback?
I love Dr. J.
Liberty Bell or Rocky Steps?
I'm going to go both there. It's just, I'm going both. I know it's not protocol, but I'm going both.
The 6-pack of questions brought to you by Garage Beer, beer-flavored beer. find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. And now, Coach, I'm going to give you a handful of artists from my music library. You tell me if you listen to these groups or singers or what have you or not. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
The Who.
Not a lot.
The Beatles.
Yes.
Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely.
The Doors.
Not so much.
The Temptations.
Absolutely.
Give me some of your go-tos.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Just too cool for words. Too cool for school. Earth, Wind, and Fire. So.
Got it. Yep. By the way, they closed the Spectrum, and there was a big affair, and the late Ed Snyder brought in Earth, Wind, and Fire, and we danced, and it was amazing.
Just would love to hear that anytime. I'm also
19. What's that? I'm sorry.
Getting into the Greatest Showman's music.
Yeah.
That's an awesome, the way that was written, all that music was written is just pretty special. So and I'm classical too. I go RTI a lot on a Sunday morning. And
okay.
A little jazz at night. You know, I'm not
it.
Jazz. I wish I was a better jazz buff. I got a good buddy of mine who's a Miles Davis nut.
I was just going to say, just put on Miles and you'll be fine.
Yeah. It's just, and I can listen to any of that stuff. I think my music tastes are eclectic.
That'll be for the second go round on Fresh 24. All right. 1989-90, your first season as a head coach in college at Penn. That was almost 35 years ago. How has coaching changed since then?
Yeah, it's changed because I've gotten older, but it's also changed because the world has changed. And you know, the older piece is you start to figure out that you can't coach every bounce, and you're going to have to put up with some things that maybe you don't like initially, and because it's going to turn out okay. But so it's that, and the game, our world has changed. The world has changed dramatically, and you were suggesting NIL before. I mean, we're in an NIL world now, and we have to adjust to it and adapt to it. And you can complain about it all you want, but if you're going to be in the game, let's be in the game and do the best that you can. And I think that's where we are as a basketball program at LaSalle today. We're adjusting to it. The world is, there's free agency, there's no salary cap, and there's not a lot of governance to let us know what is right, what's wrong. And the reality is, if you said to me, where is it headed? I don't know. I think that's what we're trying to find out. It's going to take us 3 to 5 years probably to figure all this out and have things settled down. COVID put some restrictions on us, or some additions on us, because now kids could play 5 years instead of 4. And so we're going to be through that, but there's talk of maybe even having 5 years eligibility for kids. And again, I don't know where we're headed. I think we're going to have to take a step back and watch and read and feel, and hopefully people a lot smarter than I will figure out a good way for us to have college athletics be relevant in the world that we live in today. But with NIL or the even a pay for play kind of scale that we're on, these kids are going to be more professional than ever before, and I don't know where we're headed. I'm not worried. I'm concerned, though. I'm concerned about where we are.
Okay, and again, for the uninitiated, NIL, name, image, likeness, basically the players get compensated. In fact, it's trickled down now to the high school level. You had mentioned earlier a lack of governance. You're the king of the NCAA. What changes do you make? Do you even keep NIL? What is it that you would like to see personally in terms of that?
I don't know how far I've gone with that. I did have a brief conversation with Charlie Baker, who is now the head of the NCAA. We had a phone call with him when we met as an Atlantic 10 group. Liked him very much. He's a former player at Harvard. Talked about his days of coming to Palestra and playing. And so I think he gets it. I just don't know that anybody, but we're asking the government to jump in, and to, Supreme Court. And it's just an amazing time in the world of college athletics. And I just, there was an innocence to it years ago, to college athletics. There's no, and I don't know that innocence is necessarily the right word, but there is no more innocence if there is some validity in my thought of innocence here. There is no innocence now. It's just stuff is going on. Uh, it sometimes can get into a bidding war, and it's just an amazing time. And I don't know that we could have ever predicted this. And if we would have been able to predict a little bit, if we had gone back and said, okay, we can give these kids Pell Grant monies, and there's a thing called the Alston monies now that are out there. It's, $6,000 a year, and the Pell Grants are about $6,000 a year as well. And if we had said, okay, we're going to give everybody who's on scholarship a $10,000 stipend, I think we could have headed a lot of this stuff off. But it's okay for the kids to be making money. I'm okay with this in many ways. I just don't know if there's any centering that's happening that's in the immediate horizon. If there is, then that's great, and kids can make some money, but it's not going to be. They're talking crazy numbers now, but they're talking crazy numbers with professional athletes as well. And I had a conversation the other day with somebody about back in the day, the Chuck Bednareks and the Paul Arizons and whoever were the athletes, Johnny Callisons and people like that. Well, they had jobs in the off season, because there wasn't that much money being made by these guys. And so now, and listen, I'm watching every minute of every game. Like last night, I'm watching the Monday Night Football, and I got something else on, and here's another thing. I'm just going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. I hope I'm not messing up the fresh.
Go for it.
But Caitlin Clark, for example, there's a bunch of people whose eyes are glued to the screen as she's playing college basketball at Iowa, and somebody's making money somewhere. Why can't it be Caitlin Clark? And it's okay for me because that girl, she can play. And I want to watch, and I want to watch all these young guys play too. And so, is it okay for them to be compensated? Yes, of course it is. But if you were, an old school guy, you were in this little box that you could count on every day. Well, now it's not like that anymore. It's different. We have to adjust to it. And that's where the centering, I think, will happen, but it's going to take us a while to do that. And I wish you had asked me, if I was the king of the world, and I don't know when that's going to happen, probably never, but I don't have all the answers. I wish I did, and I could go to Charlie Baker and say, hey, here's an idea. I don't know exactly how to fix this. If it needs fixing at all, maybe it'll just work itself out like life has a tendency to do on occasion. And maybe we'll all be okay. We just have to weather this interesting storm that we're in right now.
I just want to say this, and you can react to it, certainly. In fact, I'd welcome your reaction. The fact that college players are getting paid, we'll say above board now, what would be considered what some people complain about, exorbitant salaries for professional athletes and even coaches. This all speaks to how important sports are to us. That teachers and police and fire and military, yes, they get paid, but not nearly what they should be getting paid, whereas our athletes get paid a tremendous amount, and we support it. How? We pay the ticket prices. Certainly the corporations do that, I think, more than individuals now. You have, we support the advertisers. We pay for the premium channels to get our sports. I mean, by and large, we need this, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure what I would do if it was. I might go on, YouTube or watch TV. There was a doo-wop show on WHYY the other night, and I'm watching a lot of those. And but you can only do that for an X amount of time. But sports are very important, and I'd like to think that one of the reasons why sports are important is we watch teams, and teams. The teamwork that goes on, and I don't know if I can find the right word, but it's so important. We're all on teams. You're on a team at home. I'm on a team at home. I'm on a team at work. I want the team to do well. I want LaSalle to do well. I want Penn and Temple and everybody to do well wherever I've been. I want people to do well. But the team concept, and there's leaders and there's followers and there's role players and all of those things. And so we're fascinated by it, to be honest with you. Fascinated by watching Jalen Hurts, and we're fascinated by watching Tyrese Maxey and Bryce Harper, and because it's our team and it's ours. Philadelphia teams are ours, and we want them to do well. So I think there's a critical piece to this, that we all root like crazy for our hometown teams, and it's fun when they do well, and it's frustrating when they don't. And certainly as a coach at Penn or Temple or now at LaSalle, I mean, I want to do well because I want those fans that come and watch us to feel really good about what that product is on the floor or on the field or whatever it is. So teams are important.
And by the way, and I'm not even going to get into this because we don't have enough time, and I want to get into the Sixers and what they're going to do this coming year. But the elephant sitting over here is gambling. What that's become and what it will become, but that's for another time. That's for another time. But again, that's fueling this whole thing. Let's talk about the Sixers. Major roster changes. Paul George coming to the team. If you care to, because I know you don't want to necessarily speak too much about other coaches, but you're Nick Nurse, and you're going to take in a player like Paul George. You already have Joel Embiid, and you already have Tyrese Maxey. What are you thinking about in your idle moments over the summer to get Paul George up to speed and become, as you put it, part of the team?
Well, I don't know Nick Nurse that well, although I did. He came to our Coaches versus Cancer dinner in the spring, and I had a chance to just interact with him for a 5-minute period of time. And one of the things that I was so impressed with him because of was he coached Marc Tyndale, who played for me at Temple his last 2 years, and he gave him a job when he got to Toronto, and it meant a lot to Marc. And we, as a matter of fact, we talked about it the other day, Marc and I. And so Nick Nurse, the man, is like, I can't think more highly of somebody than Nick Nurse, the man. And I've heard these stories of, like Phil Martelli just talked to him the other day. We're trying to do some things as the old coaches in the city, Aaron McKee, John Griffin, Phil, Jay Wright, and they're going to run this our breakfast for Coaches versus Cancer. And Phil called up Nick Nurse and said, we'd love to have you with us. You don't have to do anything. He said, I'm in. Nick Nurse says, I'm in. Well, this is Nick Nurse. So to me, whatever he does is okay with me. And I think he'll sit down with Paul George and say, hey, Paul, here's what we got. Give me your feedback. Because I think giving ownership to these guys who have been in the league as long as they are, you got to give ownership there. And I think he's a great giving ownership kind of guy. And I think he's really good at what he does. And I'm fascinated by what the Sixers can become this year. Can we knock off the Celtics? That'd be awesome. Mm-hmm. And I watch it enough and I watched the Knicks play this year too, which was fascinating to me to watch, and how good Jalen Brunson has become. Sort of ridiculous, to be honest with you, how good he is. And I said to one of our incoming guys this year, I want you to watch Josh Hart. He thinks that he's at 6'5" tops, but he thinks every rebound's his. What a great attitude that is. And just so we can learn so much from these guys. And I again, I will watch a lot of the Sixers because I think so much of Nick, and I think so much of the Tyrese Maxeys and Joel Embiid's an amazing talent. And so I'm rooting for it. It's my hometown team. I've been rooting for them for 60 years, more than that probably.
Fran, a couple more questions and I'll let you go. By my count, 32 years of college coaching. By the way, more than half those years in the NCAA tournament. It's a hazardous profession. You're always subject to criticism. Now on social media, it's 10 times the amount, let alone all the second guessing, yet you're back in it. What is it about coaching that just keeps you going?
Well, I think the competitiveness, Marc, to be honest with you, is what drives us all. You love to compete. You reach an age where you can't compete physically anymore, so you just got to try to. The coaching piece is a great fix for us. It's as much that as anything else. But again, if it wasn't my alma mater, I wouldn't be doing this today. I wouldn't have said yes because I was fine. I was picking my grandson up from school. I was teaching a class. I was on an NIT selection committee. I was doing a little bit of ESPN Plus for LaSalle. It was good. Playing a little golf. I was having more lunches than I deserved and needed. But it was but it's your alma mater, and they say, can you join us? And yeah, I can do that. Not sure how long, but I can do this. But listen, if I'm not doing any good, kick my butt out of here. And because it's really, I've had my time. I've had my opportunity. It's somebody else's turn here, and I mean that. And so, and it will happen soon, sooner rather than later, probably. And but while I'm doing it, I love being with the kids. We're in that world of transfer portal. We lost 5 guys, and a couple of them I sat down and said, you know what, you need to make this move. It's okay. I love coaching you, and I think we're going to be better if you're here. However, it's okay for me if you make this move. But I love coaching these guys, and I get juiced when I get onto the practice floor and can make a suggestion. And again, I think I'm getting better. I've gotten better over the years of giving ownership to the assistant coaches. And when you get, I think, pretty good at your job, you're giving ownership to the players, even at the college level. If I get last couple of years, I coached Jameer Brickus, and he's coming off the court with 4 minutes to go in the game, and I'm saying, all right, what do you want to run? Because I don't care what we run. You're the guy doing the work out here. What do you like best? And I have that much faith and trust in you, and I think you got to give that to these guys. And that's as important a feature. You're needed because you got to make substitutions, and you got to be that the guy that's going to take the heat. But you need good players, and you got to trust them, and they have to trust you.
One last question. A lifetime in basketball, going back to that hoop that was nailed to the railing in Southwest Philly. What is it about the sport? Now I'm going to take a wild guess and say that basketball is your favorite sport. What is it about the game of basketball compared to all the other sports that makes it so special that there's no comparison to any other sports? It's unique to basketball. What is that?
I don't know that there's anything unique to basketball in terms of my love for it. Basketball they gave me the chance. If it was baseball, so be it. Of course, I was a smooth 225 hitter as a shortstop at LaSalle. I couldn't hit the curve, so I had no chance of going any further. But I just got an opportunity in basketball, and I love every sport that I watch. I'm watching, even the individual things like golf and tennis. I'm watching that. I'm watching what the mental makeup of some of these athletes. And I think what makes them so special is their focus. There's plenty of people, not plenty, if I'm talking about LeBron James, there's not plenty of people that have that kind of talent. However, his focus and Steph Curry's focus and those guys that are the champions oftentimes, the focus is what sets them apart. They're just so, and their lack of fear of failure, they're going to do things, and they're not afraid to fail. And I think those kinds of things turn me on, the competitive spirit of these people, and of coaches. There's a lot of really good coaches who have a phenomenal competitive spirit, but it's the focus that sets them apart. Obviously, there are other people that have phenomenal talent, but the focus makes you special. And that's what I love studying and watching. And, again, I'm watching the tennis Sunday, and this kid Sinner who wins in 3 sets, and his focus was better than the other guy, because the other guy, Taylor Fritz, I guess is his name, and he's a talented guy, but his focus wasn't where Sinner's was on Sunday. And golf, like Scotty Scheffler, it's amazing to me how these guys are so focused. Tiger Woods, and in addition to the Stephs and the LeBrons and the Aaron Rodgers, watching that last night. I'm watching it because I'm a nut on studying these guys and how their movements, their focus, their desire to succeed is so great.
Well, Coach, we're happy you focused on us for a little over 37 minutes. We appreciate it. You look good. You sound good, except for when you play my guys on North Broad Street. I'm rooting for you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us on Fresh 24.
Mark, thank you so much. Great to be with you, and wishing you all the very best in whatever you do, my friend.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Fresh 24. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our friends over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation, PHL Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience.